Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about Monster High 2. So I just watched this last night. And if you ever saw my other review on the first movie, you know that I never knew this existed. Like, I never knew it was based off Mattel dolls. I never knew there were animated series and games and stuff like that. And what got me to watch the first movie, because I had no intentions of watching it, that song from this movie, My Heart Goes Boom Boom Boom, kept playing in the ads when I was watching any type of show on Paramount Plus, and it was just stuck in my head. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna check it out, see what this thing's about. Like, why not, you know? And I really enjoyed the first movie. Like, it was actually pretty cool. I liked the costumes, the makeup. I liked the story they told of how, like, this half human, half werewolf is facing prejudice on both sides, like from the humans and then the monsters. And I like that strong vibe it had. You know what I'm saying? Also, the music was excellent. So I was kind of like really hyped for like the second movie, right? Because this came out a while ago, and I had just watched it like last month, and so the new movie was coming out in the 2 days ago, and so I was really really hyped, even though this is not for my age demographic. But I'm like, I don't care, I'm just gonna watch it anyway. Sure, you know what I'm saying? And I have to say, I am very disappointed. Like, I was expecting, because the first movie, like so many people kept talking about it, both good and bad. Because see, the thing about the first movie, it pissed off a lot of its fan base because they changed a lot about the characters and their personalities and the plot driving it and stuff. Paramount Plus Nickelodeon decided to take a more mature route with the theme when it came to that of what the overall plot was going to be, prejudice and everything. I really appreciate that because it's kind of like, they really went there for as far as they could go for a PG Nickelodeon rating. Like, you know what I'm saying? And, you got to think outside the box and you got to up the ante from things that, are intended for kids and stuff. Like, whenever you have like a live action movie based off of comics, say like Batman, you got to up the ante, like with the suit and everything, and whatever, like the main villain and stuff. Like, normally Joker, depends on which version you'll see in the comics of the cartoons, he's either serious, mean, or he's just a goofball joke. They had to take a more darker route in like the live action movie. So I appreciate the whole prejudice thing that they showed. But it did alienate the fan base, and I totally understand why it did. Like, characters, well, they look very similar to like, the dolls and anime stuff, and their clothes are similar. They don't have that type of flair that the clothes have, that type of vibe, that style that the clothes and the cartoons and the dolls wear. What they wear in the movies is good, but it's lacking that something. Like, you think Pretty Little Liars whenever I look at these like dolls and animation and stuff. And there are some people who just flat out hate the first movie. But as an outsider looking in, I like it and everything. Like, I'm vibing for it, you know what I'm saying? And at the end of the first movie, it set up what the second movie was going to be about and who it was going to focus on. Dracula and everything. And the witches versus the vampires. And so I'm like, okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to get like a Dracula focus movie because the first movie focused on Claudine? Is that her name? Um I'm just gonna call her Claudine for now, until I can actually think of her name. And so, because the first movie, focused on her, so I was expecting the second movie to focus on, Dracula and everything. It kind of did, and yet it kind of didn't, and that's really disappointing. There's a lot of things I'm just not vibing with this movie. First, I'm not vibing on the music. There was only probably about two and a half songs I actually liked. which is completely different from the first movie. I like pretty much every song I heard. Like even till this day, I be listening to the music from the first movie. Like it's just that good. You know what I'm saying? But the second movie, the music really lacked. The music was more melodrama as they're like it's like they're talking and singing at the same time, but not really singing with um that huge like rock star like vibe that they had in the first movie. It ain't like that here. Also, for the most part, there's really no character development from that of the first movie. Characters are relative the same with some slight why can't I talk? With some slight tweaking and everything. And that's quite a shame because when you have a sequel, you're supposed to progress their character growth and everything. You're supposed to evolve it, not keep them stuck in the same place that they were before. Another problem I had that the director creative person said that is gonna have some action in this movie. There really wasn't. Like if that what that man consider action, then what the heck have I been watching for the past couple of decades and everything? Because they could have upped the ante on the action. It was very brief. The CGI was fine, but it was extremely brief and they kept cutting from one thing to another. Either they ran out of time, either the network didn't want them to get too violent, or they just can't write action. So it's one of those three. And like I said before, another disappointment I had was the central focus of the movie. It is supposed to focus on that of the vampires, witches, and their feud and why they hate each other. And also Draculaura because she is a vampire who studies witchcraft. But the movie is still riding the coattails of the theme of the last movie and the main central character. It's still talking about like prejudice and oh, we can't trust humans and this and that. And I'm just kind of like, that was the first movie. We moved past that, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know why they kept slightly bringing that back. Yes, there is a focus on the vampires, and yes, there is a focus on the witches, and yes, there is a focus on Draculaura, but it doesn't really feel that way. Like, it's kind of hard to describe. Like, it's there, but it's not because it's getting overshadowed, and they're still, like, it's weird because, like, Draculaura is, like, the lead focus. But then Claudine is like the co-second lead, if you will. And every time she's on screen and they do things with her, it kind of just takes from the other storyline and stuff. And I like Claudine, I like the actress. But when they're supposed to focus on this movie and this character, I wanted that character to be the main focus. The problem with Draculaura is that she doesn't move her plot forward. Other people move her plot forward. She's literally just there as almost a plot device as others is moving her progression along and everything. That is not how you're supposed to do storytelling. Your main central character, your hero, your protagonist, they have to move their own story along as other things are going on, but they have to make things happen, not have other people make things happen for them. That is how the first movie was with Claudine. Claudine moved her story along and she kept making the decisions and stuff. And while there was obstacles trying to get in her way, she had to overcome that and stuff. Not to mention, it's kind of like even and she defeated her own villain. In this movie, it was the writing was very rushed and the pacing was very sloppy. Once again, we have Claudine trying to she kind of rescues Draculaura, but then it focused on Claudine again, and then when she wakes up, then we see Draculaura in this cool CGI like vortex, tornado pink swirly thing, as the villain is throwing fireballs at her. It's impressive, but then it cuts from that and goes to something completely different really fast. And supposedly, Draculaura defeated all the witches by herself because we're told that. We never see that. That is not what you call action. That is not what's called moving your own plot forward. And I worry because once again, Frankie got a little sidelined by just being the comedic dry relief and everything and being the smart person. But the next movie is now going to focus on Frankie. And I wonder now how much of it is going to focus on Frankie, since Frankie has never really been a huge player in the movie other than being comedic relief and everything. Because if there's still, because the problem is there's a person that shows up at the end, and that person has a tie to Claudine because of something that happened in this second movie. So I do now fear that they're going to try to make Claudine the central focus again, or at least the co-lead, and have Claudine be the one to save kind of like the day, kind of. I hope that's not the case. I really hope it's not. But let's talk about some positives before I go into plot details and characters and stuff like that. Oh, also, before I go on in that, let me just say some characters got sidelined who were only in the movie for a total of 3 to 5 minutes when they was in the movie for a lot longer in the first. Very disappointing. But let's put some positives on this. Positives. I like the cast. They're really good. They're really good actors. They're really good singers and dancers. Their costumes look amazing. Their makeup look amazing. Another thing that I like about this movie, and I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I like how they corrected some of the choices they made in the first in terms of their appearance. One of the problems that a lot of people had with the first movies is that while they look similar to their characters in animation and dolls, and it's raining. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. So it's they corrected some things here and there. Like take Cleo, for example. She's dressed more in Egyptian clothes and everything, as opposed to the first movie where you really couldn't tell. With the second movie, I can kind of see the bolts on Frankie's neck. Kind of, but not really. In the picture, I was able to see them, but as they're moving along, I can't really see. Also, Frankie can now electrocute people by mistake, just like I read in what happens in the animated series. Because that was something that was missing in the first. Claudine's hair is more brown than it is purple and stuff, and it's a lot longer. It depends on what picture you see, or animation or doll. Sometimes it's more purple, but for the most pictures that I saw, it was more brown and stuff. Laguna Blue, she is still not a central character in the movie, but she's shown a whole lot more than what she was shown back in the day. Another thing I like about this is the diversity. It is huge. Every person is a different race in this movie. And, that is saying something. It's people getting to see themselves. Because, I went on some of the stars' Instagram page. Because, they're not allowed to promote the movie. But I was curious to see what people were saying. And a lot of people kept saying how happy they were that they saw themselves on television. Meaning race and everything. Because let's face it. If Hollywood was the way it was 10, 20 years ago, these people would never have been on there. It would have been all white. Well, except for Claudine, because she's black anyway. But they made this one Afro-Latino, because that's what the actress is. And, I went to Cece's page, the one who plays Frankie. Now, in real life, Cece is transgender, non-binary, which I still don't understand. Don't those two things cancel each other out? I don't know. See, once I think I understand a lot of stuff in the LGBT community, Then something hits me with a loop, and I'm more confused than when I started. But anyways, Frankie is non-binary and reminded us in both movies because, like, they was made from parts of male and female, which once again, I think her parent or their parents is like mad scientists, not Frankenstein and not the Bride of Frankenstein. So why aren't people pissed at Frankie for having human type parents and stuff? That's never been explained. And so, I read a comment, like there was people arguing in the comment section, going to war over pronouns and stuff like that, talking about respect the stars like pronouns, and if you can't respect it, get out or something like that. And then the Laguna Blue person, she is Colombian, and there's actually a couple of Hispanics in here, at least three. And like somebody was talking about how like, it was amazing that, I never thought in a million years I'll be seeing my favorite character from the cartoon be like Hispanic and everything, or Latino, what do you call it? And of course, there was a person in the comment section, a troll, a white person who was pissed, talking about, you know what, I think Laguna Blue should have been played by a person with pale skin and blonde hair and blah 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 and blah, 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 blah. Ain't nobody got no time for no crap like that. So there's always, it's weird because this is targeted towards younger people. So that was a young person who probably said that. And even the young people nowadays are starting to be trolls, and it is disgusting. There is so much color and diversity in this movie, from different body sizes to different genders and identifications and race and color and all this other stuff. It is beautiful and stuff. Like, it's not one predominantly race. And this is how the world is. This is how television should have always been. I get tired of saying that so many times. You don't even know how many times I've said that on my channel. And so I'm going to go into some like character profiles really fast, and then I'll do the plot and stuff like that. Let me start with the brand new character. I'm going to butcher this name. Toraline Strife. She is a werecat. And honestly, I thought she was a fox when I saw her in live action because of the reddish brown skin and stuff like that and the hair, but she's a werecat. And she looks more like a tiger in the animated stuff and in the dolls, so they really didn't go all there with the makeup, and they should have. Because, this is people's first time seeing this in live action. They want it done right. They're going to want the stripes and everything like that. Anyways, I'm glad that they kept her as the antagonist. That's who she is and stuff, and from what I read. And she's very much the antagonist here. However, like I said before, it's weird. Like in the cartoon, it's Cleo she's normally butting heads with. In the movie, you think she would be butting heads with Draculaurus, and Draculaurus should be the main focus. But she's actually butting heads with Claudine. I mean, I get they needed Claudine to do something, but see, here's the thing. In the first movie, Claudine was the main central character, and the other characters we got to know, and they got to add their own storylines to it, and they also helped assist Claudine. That's how it should have been here. In a way, Claudine does help assist, but she kind of becomes the main central focus. See, Stripe does not like humans, therefore she does not like Claudine, and Claudine has become like, here's the thing, Claudine is now like a superstar at Monster High. She even has her own fan base, and it bugs her and stuff because people are having like, making dolls out of her and all kind of little things. Always want like a selfie, and it's driving her nuts. But this attention, Toraline has heard about. Toraline this time is British, and the actress is Islamic, I think. I believe that's what it is. I couldn't really tell what her race was until I looked it up. And so she has come back to Monster High. She's not really all that thrilled about being there, but she doesn't like the idea that humans are now accepted by the entire school and monsters and this and that. So she's butting heads with Claudine about that. Another problem, a person she's butting heads with, is Draculaura. She don't like witches. Says she was attacked by a coven of witches, and she has the scars to prove it. Draculaura doesn't believe this, and it causes all them to bust out in song and all this other crap. Problem is, who takes the lead in the song? Claudine. And so, it's Claudine who stands up for Draculaura and takes her on head on when it comes to this whole prejudice thing. Because of that, they have to pick a new prefect. And it's Claudine and it's Toraline going head to head about it. It should have been Draculaura going ahead about it and fighting for the rights of accepting witches and stuff like that. Since our antagonist now has a problem with witches and stuff. So I don't know why Claudine is the one doing it. So at some point the school gets attacked by witches. And they feel that they need to put everybody on a curfew and no witchcraft can be allowed on campus. Toraline is basically winning and stuff like that. And her hate, and she's even dividing the school and bringing people on her side. Well, when Draculaura is captured by witches, she agrees to help. Why? Because she's all us monsters gotta stick together, and also she wants to harm a bunch of witches. She don't like them. When it comes to the fight, it doesn't make no sense. She kicks somebody in the stomach and then she hops over them and then she just runs down the corridor. If she hates witches with a passion, you think she would be fighting tooth and nail and everything, but she's not. Therefore, the action is lacking. Then, because of a speech, once again, then she's all I guess witches aren't that bad. How the heck did she turn around like that and now accepts Draculaura? That don't make no sense. She has a pure hatred for them and everything. So why is now she's being nice and everything? This is the problem I had with the first movie, when all of a sudden the monsters are I guess humans aren't that bad since we got saved by one. It's wrapped in a nice little bow a little too fast. And not only is Toraline the antagonist, but she doesn't stay the antagonist throughout the entire movie. She shows up in the beginning, she kind of pops in the middle, and then she shows up at the end, and it's not very fluid. Not sure what this guy's name is, but he's the one with the flames on his head. Basically, he gets a lot more screen time than he did in the first. When he travels to the human world to help Draculaura, it turns out he loves human food and cannot stop eating it. And I mean, he can't stop. When it's time to fight the witches, he throws 2 fireballs and then they freeze him and then he's out. Yeah, some action. Deuce and Claudine are dating this time, and they're a cute little couple and everything. She's trying to get him to embrace his Gorkin side, but he can't because he'll still turn things into stone. And so he wants to leave Monster High and go to a different school because Gorkins can't get along with each other, and he wants to go to this other place. He helps with the rescue and everything. He doesn't do much. He just scares an oncoming car, and because it's snakes in the head, they run out. And that's basically it. He doesn't really fight because we don't get to see no action and everything. And so then at the end of the movie, he breaks Claudine's heart because he decided he is going to go to that school. As he's going to the portal, the Grim Reaper comes out, throws him in, and that's our next big bad for the third movie. Frankie is pretty much the same way Frankie was in the first movie. Dry wit, sarcasm, and comedic relief. This time around, Frankie feels like they're not powerful enough to help the friends, so they done some enhancements on their body. This is the electricity we see. See, the electricity in the animated stuff is supposed to be because Frankie sleeps at night in this type of bed thing with electrical wires going through the bolts in the neck, and whenever they hug somebody or shake somebody's hand, they get zapped. So basically here we constantly see Frankie not being able to control their powers and stuff, giving people hugs and zapping them, stuff like that. When the school is attacked by witches, they wake up and they literally fry like all the electricity items in the school and everything. Now there is a scene that kind of got crammed in where they talk about how they don't feel all that important. This would have been a whole lot nicer if it wouldn't been crammed in for one line of dialogue. We should have saw this throughout the entire movie. They never really want to progress this character. This character literally is just there. I want to see more from this character. Hopefully in the third movie, we will get that. But other than that, Frankie is extremely intelligent and is always cracking all these like codes and anagrams and all this other stuff that help them with their mission. But if they feel underappreciated, we should have saw this more in the movie. You never get that because Frankie's always one-dimensional and everything with the sarcasm. Cleo basically does nothing in this movie. Cleo's a whole lot nicer and she hangs out with the gang. She dresses more Egyptian, but when Draculaura runs away, Claudine goes into the human world because she can pass as a human. Problem is the rest of the group tags along when she doesn't even know it, and somehow they're able to find her. But the thing is, when she needed backup, she should have brought Cleo. Cleo is the only human looking person at Monster High because they're a mummy, but she doesn't bring her. Instead, she stays behind and tries to deflect on everybody missing and stuff like that. And that's basically all she does. The head mistress is barely in the movie, probably 5 minutes along with Cleo, and that's literally it. It's a whole lot nicer though this time and still rides no horse. So Claudine, like I said before, trying to be prefect because she's butting heads with that of Toraline. And so when the witches attack, I thought there was gonna be like a huge battle because like everybody's gearing up. And she growls at them and then nothing. Because Frankie zapped the entire like building and stuff. And then they leave. And so basically she's still, like I said, for dating like Deuce and everything. And when Draculaura runs away, she goes looking for her. And so they need help getting into the witch's coven building. And the building was the most disappointing thing ever because it's just like a regular business building. It's very nice looking and they sell cosmetics and everything. And I'm just kind of like, I wanted more of a witchy vibe. But she calls her dad to help her crack the security. Somehow he's able to get into like the grid and spy on the cameras and all this other fancy stuff. So they had to bring him back somehow, which honestly, it is nice to see him back, but there really was no need for him. So that little plot angle was just kind of like pointless just to bring him in. And they could have progressed the story more. They would have done something different. So basically when Draculaura is in like a cage, the cage has some kind of weird magical thing on it. You touch it, it burns you and causes you excruciating pain. So she's trying to free Draculaura. She grabs onto the cage and she busts it open, all while getting basically fried. It's very heroic and everything. But it would have been cooler if Draculaura could find a way to get herself out. But I guess it was magically sealed and she couldn't get out. Anyways, this is when something weird happens. When all the supposed Draculaura whooping on everybody's behind, we get Claudine in like a void, all blackness, and the Grim Reaper shows up. Claudine took so much of a punishment that she's drifting out of consciousness and going to the land of the dead. She is dying. And he's all like, there's nothing you can do. It's your time, blah, blah, blah. But her friends pretty much shake her and call her name out and she wakes up. This pisses off the Grim Reaper. We will see at the end of the movie. So basically, they tell Claudine, what all happened and stuff like that. So when Deuce leaves and everything and she's heartbroken, then we get the ending to the movie. And I know it feels like Claudine didn't do much. Like I said before, it does focus on Draculaura. It is the focus, but every time they give Claudine something to do, it kind of overshadows, like, what Dracula is doing. The stuff that Claudine is doing in this movie should have went to Dracula, in my opinion. And so, like, basically, the ending is like this: the Grim Reaper throws Deuce into the portal, and he's pissed. And he's all like, death has eluded me and it will elude me no more. Meaning somebody inside Monster High should have been dead and never crossed over. And then it pans to Frankie sleeping, which would make sense. Frankie is the combination of dead bodies. Those dead bodies and souls, I guess, must be inside Frankie, and Grim Reaper wants it. Also, there could be more dead people inside, because remember, Claudine was supposed to die, and she came back to the land of the living, which pissed him off. So he might be wanting to go after her. And also, let's not forget, there are other dead-ish monsters at Monster High. The zombies are the Walking Dead. So they're supposed to be dead, but not. So he's gonna probably want to collect them. Vampires are the living dead. He probably wants to collect them. Somehow this all is gonna revolve around Frankie, and we're gonna see how. Why Deuce isn't dead when the Grim Reaper touched him, I guess those type of rules don't work, you know what I'm saying? But it's very interesting. If they could pull this off, it would be awesome. Also, with the whole letdown of this movie. Now let's get to Dracula and everything, the supposed main protagonist of this movie. So the creepy hand that we saw at the end of the first movie talking about she is the one and stuff like that. This is a woman that is I guess you can call her our antagonist, even though she was a lame antagonist. Now, before I go any further, the mother, who's the main villain of this movie, I like the actress. I've seen her other stuff before. But why is she evil exactly? Why does she hate vampires? It's never explained other than the fact that it was written for her to hate them. There's no flashbacks, there's no dialogue, there's no nothing that explains why she hates vampires so much and why she wants to kill them all. She has no motivation other than the writers just writing her to say so, only because many years ago there was like, a fight between like vampires and like, witches. Not only that, and yes, she is evil because she wants to destroy them all, but she's not evil like the first villain dude, Mr. Hyde Jr. and stuff. He was very evil, and we get to see his statue in this movie when Claudine looks at it for a long time, making me think they was gonna resurrect him, but they didn't. And so then it turns out that Dracula, who's Dracula's father, knows the villain lady, but they don't explain how they know each other exactly. Why wasn't this told to us? And then when Dracula defeats everybody and the mom is tied up, off screen, when the camera pans off screen, we see the dad talking to the mom, Dracula talking to the mom. They're like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" "Oh, fine, how are you?" Like, they're all like chummy, and I'm just kind of like, come on, Nickelodeon. You can't go Disney Channel on us. Even Disney Channel is up in their game. Like, y'all used to have a show called Mom Instant, and like, seriously, dude, even that was a little bit more edgy. It's kind of like you can't go back to the kiddie route and everything. The villain wasn't even all that scary. And so basically a new school year has started and everybody's happy, and Dracula is extremely happy because she met another vampire, a blue vampire named Ellis and everything. And those two really kick it off. So basically they're talking about like, vampires and witches and how they don't get along. But not only is he a vampire, but he's also a witch, or so she thinks. They have a nice little song and everything like that. And then the curfew happens, and then the witches come into like the school and they're looking to grab that Draculaura. This is when Frankie fries everything and they leave, which sets up the rules that Draculaura is not allowed to do magic. At some point in time, when she is talking to this dude, he reveals to her that he's not really a vampire. He is a witch. And, he used the glamour spell and everything because he needs her help. There is friction between like the vampires and the witches, all this like prejudice stuff, and it needs to end. And his mother wants to see her. She agrees to help, like, be some type of like, I guess, like ambassador or something like that, or bring the peace or whatever, right? Well, this is when she runs away. And when she runs away, it doesn't have that same impact as the way Claudine ran away. See, when Claudine ran away, we knew exactly why. We saw the humans chase after her. We saw the hatred of the monsters constantly at Monster High. She had a good reason to why she didn't fit in either place. When she ran away, it still focused and showed her, and we got to hear her thoughts and everything as her friends find her and tell her everything's gonna be okay and blah, 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 and all that other stuff. And so, like, here we don't get that. When she runs away, it focuses on Claudine and the rest of the group, and then they go looking for her. And then when they finally get to the witches building, then all of a sudden we see Draculaura. Happy and all this other stuff. Nobody's hurting her. Even though the place she's in is a terrible place. When she meets the head of the place, his mom, she's all like, oh yes, us witches, we use our magic to make cosmetics and blah blah and herbal stuff and stuff like that and help people and blah blah blah. She tells the history of what happened between the witches and the vampires. Finally, we're gonna get to know why. This is supposed to be the main central driving force and everything, right? Well, we get a visual, an animated visual, which, a lot of times fantasy movies like to do this. Harry Potter, the very last movie, did this beautifully when Hermione told the story of like the Elder Wand. Here, for whatever reason, they don't have the CGI to make anything visually nice. I could not even tell what the heck was going on in the flashback. Actually, it wasn't really a flashback. It was just like a little projection in the sky. You couldn't tell who was a witch and you could not tell who was a vampire because it looked kind of like flame lava. And so that was confusing. We didn't get no real flashbacks or nothing like that. And so basically what happened was that a witch and a vampire fell in love. One tried to do like a mortality spell, let the person live for a long time, and it backfired, killing, I think, like the vampire. It basically burnt them up like sunlight or some crap like that. So at some point in time, the mom betrays that of Draculaura and puts her in a cage and says that, I'm gonna have to do the spell and then it's gonna broadcast around the entire world, killing all the vampires. Okay, but here's the thing. It would have been nice to see witches and vampires not get along. We don't get to see none of that. So it kind of dilutes the whole plot of this movie. That was supposed to be the driving force of it. And we don't even get to see it. We get told that, but we don't get to see it. She tries to get out. Now here's one problem I have. He taught her a spell to make a clone. She used that spell back at the school to pretend like she's sick, and we had some fart jokes because this is no Nickelodeon. And so basically everybody thinks Draculaura is back at school just bumping into stuff and farting. Wow, this whole time in prison and everything, she never tried to use a clone for anything to help free her or pretend like she's in the cage or nothing like that. So what was the point of that spell other than giving us a Nickelodeon fart joke? So this is when, the group shows up and they try to save her. The mom is pissed and be like, whatever, I'm just about to fry your behind. Well, this is when the son comes in and the son betrays the mom because he is in love with Draculaura. Well, problem is his mom is supposed to be more powerful than him. He is able to freeze her. He even says hurry because My mom is too strong. Now, at this whole time, Draculaura is under, I forgot, she's under a spell. So she's reciting a spell that's going to kill all the vampires and stuff. This is when Claudine shows up, frees her, it snaps her out. Because apparently if you just touch her, just a little tap, she'll wake up. That is the dumbest thing I ever heard. You telling me you need her brainwashed and do this big spell to kill all the vampires, and you just tap her, she wakes up. Come on now. So then, of course, Claudine kind of dies, come back alive, and we see Draculaura flying in the air and with the whole tornado pink thing, deflecting magical stuff for like a brief second, a very brief second. Then Claudine wakes up and we get told Draculaura whooped every single witch's behind in that building. But we never got to see it, and it is disappointing. You're supposed to show and not tell. So she didn't even really get her hero moment in the eyes of the viewer, which I feel like the protagonist of this movie got sidelined in a way. So then we get back to Monster High, and we don't see Elias no more. So not only does she not get to keep her new love interest, so what was the point of even bringing him in? She doesn't even get to keep him or give him a heartfelt goodbye, nothing like that. Instead, we get the heartfelt goodbye from that of Claudine and Deuce. Claudine is not the main character of this movie. So, as I'm losing my voice talking right now, this is why I feel like this movie was a disappointment and was not as good as the first. The writing, the direction, the plot and everything, nothing fit. It just felt like everything was rushed and scrambled to make something really fast. I don't know when this movie was written in terms of the writer's strike and everything. Maybe that affected it. I don't know. But if they wasn't ready to pull out a banger, in my opinion, then they should never have done that. And it's weird because like I said before, even the music didn't really do it for me this time. The music was electrifying in the first movie, and here it's just there's only 2.5 good songs, and that's basically it. Characters that was in the first movie a whole lot more, like Cleo and the headless mistress lady, are barely in this movie. There was no point in even Cleo even being in this movie. Our other antagonist, that of Toraline, she was barely in the movie, and even her motives were strong in the beginning, but then it's oh, whatever, y'all are cool. I'm cool with witches now, even though y'all burnt me and everything. It's I don't get it. I really don't get it. So I'm really worried for the third movie because Frankie doesn't get enough character development as it is. And Frankie is supposed to be the driving force of the third movie. That wasn't that spooky. Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.